Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sabrina and I am a medium, psychic, mystic, shamanic witch, and I talk about a lot of different things that are esoteric, metaphysical, and my studies of different spiritual practices and traditions and the things that I have learned. I'm currently in a studio apartment. I've had to move from my one-bedroom townhouse apartment, which was more like a home than anything I've ever had, in the sense that it was not a mobile home. It was built more like a conventional home. I had enough space for me. It was a large one bedroom. And the things that I've acquired pretty much in my life, I sold a lot of things from my 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home about a year and a half prior to that. And I put myself in a studio. I was never resigned to staying there in any way, shape, or form. But I had a friend who thought this is enough. Well, you know, at her age, maybe it was enough for her. Maybe she's a minimalist. But, you know, she does have a husband and a home and a child. And unless you don't print out pictures, I don't know, there's a lot that you would have to get rid of. And you probably don't want to get rid of your family album or the books that you've read and learned things from that you cherish. But in that studio apartment, I just had got myself a bed. It was a twin-size bed. I'd had a queen. I never did get comfortable. I knew right away the twin bed was just not big enough for me. I'm realizing now that with that studio and the galley kitchen, I was out of there a lot. I was walking, or I was on my scooter, or I was at the pool because I felt confined. And I thought, okay, it's temporary, you know, I'll just get out and I'll go here and I'll go there and I'll do this and I'll do that. And then the pandemic hit, and all the money I had in investment in a retirement account just started going down. really started going down. So the only thing I had purchased was a dining room set, a very nice dining room set, in preparation for buying a twin home or a condo or an old house fixer-upper, right? So I end up in this 1-bedroom townhouse apartment, and as I go to the restaurant at the end of the block, I'm going to talk about signs and symbols around us again. And I've only touched on that, a little bit recently, but we need to pay attention to a lot of the signs and symbols around us and not jump to conclusions, use our discernment. But every time I went to this restaurant, 1313 came up on the ticket. Finally, I asked them, what is this number here? And they said, it's our store number. Okay. I still couldn't help but think that with my years of experience in learning about symbols and the numbers on tarot, that this was significant. And in fact, it took a couple of years for me to actually start having dreams of other things that were going to be happening, and I didn't know how they were going to be happening, how they were going to transpire. But at about the 3-year mark, it started happening. The 13 represents not only, you hear death and transformation a new beginning, and it's a transformation is what it is. It is the ending, the complete ending of one cycle or one chapter of your life, and then the beginning of a new chapter of your life. And that is what happened. It's sort of like when you're growing up and you're single, right? And then you get married. Well, then you have a whole new life, basically. It doesn't matter. You've still got family and friends around you. You have entered a whole new chapter of your life. And then when a family member dies, there can be also another new type of a realization that sets you on a new way of thinking and doing things. Perhaps becoming more serious about something. And it can happen again when we have a major illness, whatever that is, psychological or physical. And they can be related. I know, I feel pretty certain that mine were exacerbated by the psychological stress that I had been living under. But yeah, that it was not something that I really wanted to have to go through again. But it was a test of my knowledge that I had acquired so far, because I've been through several towers and several death types of things already in my life. And I've always sought the deeper meanings of things. And this is what the so-called chosen ones will do. They won't really follow in the footsteps of others, or they can't because they're suffering from a lack of energy. And we seek to really find ways to relax. And I'm talking about healthy ways: yoga, meditation, stepping on a goddess-based path, a nature-based path, a lot of alternative spiritual practices. So my journey has been very long. It's been over 30 years, and I got to the point when, for some reason, I was being encountering this person that was unlike anyone I'd ever encountered before. My mother, which I've talked about quite a lot, was a narcissist. And then I married a narcissist. One of the major death moments that I've had was when I finally came out of the suppression of my marriage to my narcissist husband and the somatic release that I had. I call my dream journey, where I saw myself in three faces of a woman, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. These types of stressors, when you seek insight, can bring great knowledge, tremendous insight and wisdom. If you're just constantly going within and asking within, why is this? Why does this feel so wrong? Why does this feel so weird? Why am I subjected to this? And why ultimately did I choose to be committed to this? And those answers began to come, but only after I'd had some really serious, what I call trifecta, and that was laying down and listening to guided meditation, mindful meditation tapes, meditating on my own in the afternoon without that, because I know how to do that, And then also, twice a week, going to a counselor, telling her what I've been thinking, what I've been feeling, what's been coming to my mind, and all of the things that I needed to have come up, came up, and it was a knowing. He's not going to change. No matter how you try to change yourself, maybe I can be this, maybe I can be that. He's never going to be affectionate. He's never going to be careful with money. All of those things. So then it was a matter of me keeping my sanity while I continued to level up my ability to take care of myself once again when I moved away from that person. Oh, in the case of my mother, as I'm looking back now, as when she had reached my age, she had found her 2-bedroom RV park mobile home and was set. She knew. She said, I'm set. I'm not moving anymore. I've done enough moving over the past 13 years. At that time, I think it was, at least, now that I'm looking back. And this is where I want to be. I have my name on the list. This is the nicest, I think, in my opinion, the nicest RV resort for 55 and over park that I've seen. And I just absolutely love my little place, which was a shrunken version of me and my husband's mobile home. So she was always, getting ideas and learning from other people and kind of copying and acquiring. So in a way, I thought, why is my mom always jealous of me? Because that was another issue, right? Her mobile home was so much like mine, it wasn't funny. But she had a nicer 1-bedroom at the front. She had a full bathroom at the front. And then on the way to the back, she had a recessed washer and dryer area. It wasn't just sticking out in the hallway. She had actually a better built mobile home. Wider doorways, wider hallways. And a really nice big master bath with a huge shower. She had room for a double sink, but I think she just had one sink. Very big counter, very big bathroom, and she could sit in that shower and shower. I believe there was even like a little shelf to put, I don't know, linens or I don't know what. But yeah, it really was a little gym, and that's what she called it, and I didn't believe it till I saw it. Now, looking back at my mother, what she considered to be probably the worst things that happened to her were actually the best things. I used to live over in this neck of the woods, guys. This is where our mobile home was. When I fell into my depression and all that stuff happened and I began experiencing my new self, I felt connected to all the elements, the air, the sun. I could hear the trees ringing. So when you are going through the dark night of the mind or the soul, you do have to find techniques to come out of it. But today what I want to talk about is how my mother actually found her self-reliance. Now, I'm not going to be staying here. I know that. That's not my plan. I'm not sedentary. I'm physically active. I'm still working a lot. I'm back to work, and the work is hard. I'll be going to work soon here. keeps me busy, and I love being around children. More and more I see it's in my chart. That's what, no matter what I try to go and do away from that to quit that, I'm always pulled back to it. I'm supposed to be around children, working with children in this type of an educational environment. I've told stories about how my mother ran smear campaigns, sent flying monkeys after me, and at one point got physical. She did an awful lot of things, guys, to try to get people to just buy into her victim mentality, her I can't do this and I can't do that type of a lifestyle situation where she could just get other people to vouch for her, do things for her, and defend her. You know, and not taking no for an answer. So what actually ended up happening after the death of my father and the physical attack from her, and I moved out, there was no one left to help her. She had been doing things over the years. She had, you know, tried and tried and tried in a lot of awful ways to attack the people that were her family, you know, her children, her husband. I recall that she had moved into several different places. She may have gone back to this hotel for women that I was living in at one point. Actually, I had gone back there several times because, similar to where I am now, I have a job that I'm off in the summer. And because I've chosen not to keep any other type of a job throughout the year and throughout the summer, I just do DoorDash. And I'm now receiving, you know, a trust fund check from Social Security. I enjoyed that one bedroom, but it was always a struggle. So I have an opportunity here to actually be able to save once again. That was my goal. I now have more bills to pay, and that's going to be a real challenge. For some reason, I'm having a really hard time once again as the year is starting, getting back into the swing of things, of having to be, you know, attentive and even physical with children that need help, and picking them up and walking a lot. And I have to build back up to that. I have not been weightlifting or going to the gym. I've been walking to try to lose weight. So I just remember that she had come to visit me in the new place that I moved after Dad died, and she had the physical attack on me, and never apologized, never, and in fact was coming to me to ask for money. Now, similar to me as a young girl trying to find my way in life, in the world, and survive on my own, my mother was doing this. She had divorced my father when I was in high school. I was graduating, they divorced, she went her separate ways. That was really the beginning of her finding self-reliance, even though it was a very, very, very bumpy road. Her choosing not to stay with him or live with him, she went off to live like a single lady, and she did have a variety of situations with guys. Very short-lived. Some of them were incredibly upsetting to me. And I won't get into that. But it was, again, it was just like, my mother has reverted back to being a single girl, starting out like me. I still don't have a mother. So the mask really had come off. This was basically what was underneath for many, many, many years. Now, she was never, ever prosperous. She was always struggling, always low income. First lived in a teeny tiny little camper. I tried to stay with her for a month or two. That didn't work. And so as time went on and she moved to the desert where my father went, and then I went there, she and I both were sort of at the same level. But as I watched her get older, because she turned into her 50s, she began to try different things. And so part of that is she had gotten a truck. Now I have a truck. And I didn't know why. And she said she felt safe in it when she was driving it. Then she got a camper on the back of it. Well, then she chose to live in that. She wasn't in a RV park. There's a lot of RV parks in the desert, and that is where she had started living and been living off and on. She wouldn't stay in one place because she was not able to be really consistent with going to work and paying her bills on time. Now, wanting to be pampered and enjoy life is one thing. That can be a good example to an extent, but not working on days when you need to work just because you don't want to work is childish and irresponsible. As a result, she ended up living in a variety of different places. 2 times I can recall, she moved in with some other woman, hoping that would become her mother figure, and it never worked out, right? That person has their own life, they're dating, they're getting a boyfriend, then they're remodeling the house, they don't have time to just sit and chit-chat with you, and then they get engaged, and then they go off, right? And so she was not able to stay with those people for any great length of time, and she wasn't really happy there. One woman had even asked her, why do you spend so much time in your room? You know, don't you have to go to work sometimes? So she would take the foot off of the gas and not work much at all. She wasn't paying much for the tiny room she was living in, and she didn't have her own kitchen or a dining room. And she wasn't happy about it, but she didn't want to go to work. So eventually, over time, she began to realize she was going to have to become more self-reliant. And she didn't really want to live with someone who wasn't going to give her time, who wasn't going to be a mother figure, wasn't going to have her own kitchen, you know, or her own dining room, or her own little living room. So she went back to living in campers, in campgrounds. At one point, she got a low-income apartment. She didn't like that either. The walls were paper thin. I understand that. She'd either lived in a house or a camper most of her life. We grew up in middle class neighborhoods and houses. So, you know, while I'm trying to find my way, I'm wondering why my mom is living, you know, like this. But as she entered her mid-50s, I think she started to get a little tiny bit more of a handle on things. However, she chose to live in her camper, and in those days there was no Walmart where you could just park. So anywhere and everywhere she parked, the police would be knocking on her camper door. Ma'am, you can't park here. You can't stay here overnight. It's not safe. Her doctor was also telling her this is not a healthy decision. This is not healthy. My dad was concerned. I was concerned. Her friends were concerned. But she was determined to try to save a little bit of money. So then she sold the camper and went back into another campground and got a little camper in an RV park. I think I saw that one. I can't remember because there was so much going on with her moving a lot. And then I also moved quite a lot. Part of it was because in the summertime our hours would get cut out there. But after she sold her truck and got herself a little car, she had made acquaintance with someone who had a house they wanted to rent, and they decided to rent it to her. So then she got back into a house. She was very, very happy about it. It was pretty much longer drive away from in town where she needed to go to do her work. It was extremely windy. Sometimes she couldn't hold the gate to get it closed for the driveway. And the neighbor's house next door was being used by their son, who had very, very loud house parties. So until we were able to finally figure out how she was going to get that resolved, she had decided, I didn't know, she had been living off of a credit card or two for quite some time, like a sugar daddy. And she had a habit of sticking money under chair furniture, under cushions. She never really put money in a savings account. So, I had watched her get very thin. Her cholesterol had gotten high. And then I had just gotten married and was living in an apartment, and she was telling me that she was filing for bankruptcy. And I recall going over to visit her and her constantly getting phone calls and making excuses. My mother taught me how to make excuses. But as I would go through life as a young lady, getting in trouble for being late to work and making excuses, for paying late and making excuses, all these things that my role model mother had done that I felt bad about. And I didn't have the type of job where I was full-time. So I had a commitment. She did not. She was an independent, just doing dealer trades with cars. Stop that! Why are they scratching on my bed now? You never do that any other time of the day or night. You're doing it now because I'm making a video. So, yeah, she didn't have the ability to try to find the owner or speak to the owner or call the police about the neighbor. She didn't want to, have any type of retaliation against her. But somehow, some way, we were able to get in touch with the owner. And I think another neighbor also knew the owner and complained, so it wasn't just her. So yeah, she's filed for bankruptcy, and she had received a card after Dad died. So we're talking 5 years where I didn't know she had been using the card and then, making excuses, which that's all she ever did, really. Why I can't, right? I'm doing my best, and she wasn't. It was in a way an exorcism, a partial exorcism that needed to occur with this childlike personality of being dependent upon other people. So not having access to that card and not having other people being able to help her. I'm married, my sister's married, my dad's dead. Everybody else is busy, they're not related to her. She began, as I can recall, she began to work more because she had to. If she was going to maintain her own independent little place to live, because she didn't want to live with anyone where she had to negotiate or have compromises. Now, when we were growing up, she taught us that, like it or not, we have to compromise and we have to make negotiations with the people that we live with. If they want to go bowling, we might have to sometime go bowling with them, and we might decide that we like it. And that's true, and that's something that she did learn. But as far as having to live with someone and either deal with their mess or, I don't know, she just didn't want to live with anybody. She did always have a pet. She had a dog or she had a cat. But until she had reached, I'd say, the age of 55, I believe, in her mid-50s, and had filed bankruptcy, began to realize that she's just going to have to go to work on days when she doesn't want to work, and she's going to have to somehow rebuild her own credit once again, or she was not going to be able to get a better car when she needed one. And these are things she wanted. She wanted a sense of having her own mobility, having her own place to live, right? Now, I remember when she was about 60, she'd had a little RV park mobile home inside a nice RV park. No, she was 55. And then had moved in with another guy once again. Her car was in the shop and she was sulking, and she admits it. And he felt sorry for her, and he went up to her. And they became boyfriend, girlfriend. She quickly moved in with him. All right, so it wasn't over yet. My mother's goal was to lean on somebody and really pretty much do nothing except allow the little bit of money that she was making to come in and sit on it so that she could get herself a better car, because hers was in bad shape. She complained to me that he wanted her to be an involved girlfriend, to assist him with his housework, assist him with his business, and she didn't want to do any of it. She said, and here's the admission, guys, I just want someone to take care of me. And that's when I knew my mom was never ever mature enough to be in a relationship. She was never ever relationship material. It was all about her. It was about survival, convenience, material things. She did, though, tell me that she was getting up to cook a little bit and keep the kitchen clean in exchange for her room and board, and that as she was working, she was saving her money, and him and some other people were helping her find the kind of car she was really looking for. Things went bad. They got worse before they got better after this. It was all planned, and she blamed everybody. So as she moved out and she went back, I told her, go back and see if you can get that little mobile home in that campground place. She liked where she was. I think she got it back. I think she ended up getting back in the one that she was in. I don't know. But she loved the one that she was in. So when she finally got back in, she'd been contacted, I think, by this park, and she got in at the age of about 60. Yeah, by this time she was way past 58. Maybe 60 at least. Still working a little bit, and had gotten a car. I think then she turned 62. I don't know, but at some point she was so happy she had finally been able to build herself up to the point where she could get a brand new car. It was a brand new Hyundai Elantra, and it was just another little small car, hatchback model that they had at that time, which was about 12 years ago. So now she's back into a really nice little mobile home in the RV park, really nice RV resort for seniors, and she's got her new car. And when she turned 65, I believe, for some reason when she was 62, she told me they said she couldn't get her Social Security, but I think she decided to wait so that it would grow a little bit more. When she got her Air Force pension and her Social Security together at age 65, then she was finally more financially self-reliant. Now, there's more to the story than that. It's a very, very long, hard process for the narcissist to actually become self-reliant, especially if they're doing it on their own. If they're not really listening to the counselors when they're going to counseling, and maybe she was a little bit, if they're not really, for some reason, wanting to go and take go to a little vocational school, to get some type of a little skill that they can go out and make a little bit more money at, or don't want to have to go and work full time 5 days a week. It's hard. I don't really have enough time. I never did have enough time to get things done when I live alone for my personal matters. And now, of course, me working for 6 years on building up a spiritual type of a product, right, business, I still am now a licensed esthetician, and I am going to play with concocting products, and who knows, I may venture out and get a little space and start giving facials with my product line and selling my product line. All these things are possible. All these things I still have my goals and dreams of. My mother did not. When she reached my age, she just stayed home. She never went anywhere. All the money that was coming in, she just wanted to hold on to it. She paid a minimal amount, I should say a very nominal amount, for her house, her space, and everything. She actually bought the house. She was able to buy the mobile home from an insurance settlement that she had received. So she basically just had the lot rent and utilities to pay for, and she'd even paid off her car. She paid off her car, I think, within, I don't know, 5 years or less. So it was touch and go there for a while. She didn't want to move, but she was able to buy her house and not move again. And then she had the nice new car, and then that got paid off. But she just didn't want to go out and do anything more where she had to spend more money. She complained, as long as I have known her, about having to spend, how much groceries cost, having to spend money on groceries. But she started picking up strays anywhere she found them, and they were cats, all cats. And at one point she had too many, and we had to tell her she could get kicked out if she didn't find homes for those cats. So she just basically had to keep working, sort of like my ex, in order to earn credits, so that at some point when she got old enough to file for her Social Security, that would be a check that came in that would help her. Now, she also had her Air Force pension, and then again she had received an insurance settlement. So there is a certain degree of self-reliance that the narcissist can develop when they are forced to do it, when there's no one to help them. My dad couldn't help her when he was alive, and then he couldn't, I couldn't help her after he passed. My sister couldn't help her. None of us had any extra money or a big house for her to live in. It was a blessing in disguise, because now she has with her in the spirit realm the knowledge that there were things she had to do to become more adult, even if she didn't want to do them, and that there was a reward. She got herself eventually more established financially without relying on credit cards, getting a new car, and finding a nice place to live in that sense. So, working as much as she needed to maintain her decent life and her proper shelter is what she did. She got out of that camper that was on the back of her truck because everybody bugged her to death about it and told her it's not healthy. You can't live like this. And after about 9 months, she finally did. And from that point in, she always did have what I call proper shelter. No one should be living in their car or their camper or their truck on the street or in Walmart. And I know it happens, and I'm not saying that everybody is, mentally ill or narcissist. But my mother was not committed to working full time, see? So she was constantly having to push herself to go out and work a little bit several times a week so that she could have proper shelter and do some of the things. So some of the things she did, I'm learning now to pamper herself and enjoy life. I am now starting to do for myself. I'm taking the walk around the lake. I'm going to eat by another lake over here in town one day. I've gone out to the local KOA to see about camping. I will probably rent a cabin. My mother did that. She went up to Arrowhead Mountain in the desert. And I asked her why. I was always asking her why. I think I stayed in the cabin. I don't remember, but she said it's a way just to get out of town, just get out of the desert and be up here and be cooler, and it's peaceful, and that's what she needed. And so now I'm looking at doing the same thing, even though she was like in her 50s when she was when she was doing that. Another time we had something called a tram in the desert. You could take a tram and you could go up to another mountain in the desert at the edge of the city, Palm Springs, and it'd be about 20 degrees cooler up there. You know, when it's 100 degrees down below, you could go up there where it's like 75 or 80 and spend the day. So she did that a couple of times. And I still have a picture of her up there on my refrigerator, although it's very faded. So I feel like she's kind of guiding me from the other side right now, letting me know that once again I can get out of this studio apartment and do the things that I, you know, get outside and do like I did before. Take a walk. I don't have a scooter, but I might get some kind of a bicycle. Yesterday in the recess gym, they had these tricycles, and one of them was long enough for an adult and another one was bigger. The bigger ones were for the older kids. And so all three of us teachers were on these big bikes while the little kids were on their little bikes going around for 15 minutes. That's probably another reason why I'm so tired. So yeah, those are the kinds of moments that just keep me going back to this job and enjoying my life right now when I'm feeling cramped in here and trying to figure out how to get organized. And that's what I wanted to say today about the journey of a narcissist becoming self-reliant. It can happen to a lesser or a greater degree depending on how you were raised, what you grow up with. Maybe those that grow up in wealth are able to acquire really good paying jobs and go and get some type of an education. But they probably are really not good with managing their money and are selfish. My mom was very frugal to the extreme. And so, you know, there's like a double-edged sword to it. But I would say, all in all, in the long run, her not being helped was the best thing that ever happened to her, because she was able to attain some level of self-reliance that I could see, which was empowering, you know. I think it was really amazing what she finally ended up getting, even though she spent the rest of her days as a hermit. Okay, that's it for now, guys. Have a great day.